it stars Madame, and I have a special vlog for you. Yeah, I'm gonna call this a vlog. So if you follow my Instagram, on there, I posted a video, or on my feed, actually, not even on my stories, that I was buying a book from a Hispanic author about Hispanic life. And I teased on there that I was going to explain why I was buying it, because it wasn't just because it's Hispanic based, about Mexican American life, not about Mexican or the immigrant journey, which is all really important, but doesn't reflect me and my life, because I am not from immigrant parents. I am not an immigrant. My family's been here a long time, and both my parents were born here in America, and my dad's parents were born here in America. One of my mother's parents is an immigrant, and the other one is not. She is an American, but she grew up on the border and then a little bit on the other side of the border in Mexico, and then came back. So I don't count those really as immigrant stories. And my grandfather never lived a traditional immigrant life. He lived a very American life. So, I'm honestly still not, this is the first time I'm talking about it, but, I watched the Evergreen diversity stuff, and it kind of, made me trigger on my diversity, my life, my representation, and how true, I never really felt like I was represented, and the few stories that were about, Hispanic girls were all almost completely about an immigrant experience, which again, that's all really important, but it doesn't express me. So, I did a whole ranty video on it, and I haven't even watched it again. I might publish it, I might not. I'm not sure. But back to the main point of this video, or I guess that is kind of the point partially. But I got the book finally from Amazon. It is independently published. This book is, and it's this book here. So it is, and excuse my pronunciation. If you guys notice, I can't speak English either. I can't speak anything. But it's Pulido Del Barrio Libre, The Life of Ronaldo M. Santa Cruz, Ronaldo by Ronaldo G. Santa Cruz Jr. And the foreword is by Dr. Richard A. Saltiano, something like that. This book is actually from my great uncle. And I will, just for the context of the continuation of this vlog, I will be calling him Theo probably most often in this vlog. But he's been working on this book for a very long time, and he finally finished it and got it published independently, and the whole family has been raving about it and talking about it. So I decided to give him some free press. Not that he asked for it, not that I have a lot of followers, but I do have a decent amount of people on Instagram, so I'm gonna post them a picture of that I got the book, and maybe a clip or something on Instagram. Not that I'm a bookstagrammer or a booktuber, but I'm going to do a vlog. I'm going to read the book and explain. I mean, you can see it's not a very big book. But my Theo worked really hard. My dad even read, it sounded more like he was maybe like a beta-ish reader. So my dad read little excerpts. I know some of my other Theos did. Thea being aunts, some great aunts, regular aunts category. And I know a couple of family, read a couple of excerpts for context and for making sure you kind of got the story correct. This is not a like memoir kind of biographical thing. It's definitely more of like almost like a historical fiction kind of esque book, from what I understand. I literally only know that it's about his dad, my great great uncle, and a story about a baseball game, and then some other stuff. And that's literally all I know about the story and what he told me. And it's kind of what the little excerpt says in the back. So, back here is my great great uncle's wedding picture. It's so cute. Read the little excerpt in the back. So on the back it says, the life of Ronaldo M. Santa Cruz is not only a warm-hearted and riveting story of a hardworking Native Mexican American man who was an inspiration to and the guiding spirit of his family and friends. It is I'm not sure what that word is, patron? I'm not sure. To baseball and his love for America's greatest and oldest game. This is from Don Lynchman, former arts critic and author of Los Angeles Dodgers Pictures. And then there's another little quote thing from this groundbreaking book you are about to read is a major contributing enhancement. Sorry guys. This groundbreaking book you are about to read is a major contribution enhancing our better understanding of Mexican Americans on several historic levels: baseball, military, family, community, labor, culture, and generational linkage. This extraordinary story employs vintage photos telling a much larger sequence of events outside the diamond, a tale of a proud people who incorporated sports as political instruments designed to embolden and further their civil, gender, cultural, and social rights. That one is from Dr. Richard A. Saltarian, who did the foreword, professor of emeritus and author. I'm not sure what that word is. That sounds like I don't know. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to slightly vlog my experience. As I read it, I'm going to do little check-ins and talk about the book. And then at the end, I'm going to do another sit down like this and talk about what I thought of the book overall. Obviously, I'm going to be partially biased. This is from my family, about my family, with some fiction thrown in there. But I'm also going to slightly review it on the fact of it being like they use Mexican American, which I love, as a Mexican American representation of this book. Versus, like I said before, a lot of books being on. Sorry, my AC turned on. It's Arizona. It's hot. I'm not turning it off. Unlike other people who do their things. I always try to like bring down the background noise if you can hear it. Versus a lot of other books about the immigrant story and about books that have Hispanic characters or Mexican characters, but take place in Mexico. And as much as that's good, I, again, have no basis on that life. That doesn't apply to me. I don't connect with it. So I'm going to review the book sort of on that context too, of the book being about a Mexican American person and family and how it represents Mexican American life here. I will try not to be too biased because, again, it's my deal. It's about my great uncle, something like that. I asked my dad to make sure I had the right context, and I hope I remember correctly. But so I'm gonna try not be biased in that sense. So I might, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna definitely rate it based off of how it represents, like, me and my life here and how I live as a Mexican American, as a Hispanic person, not a Mexican person, not someone who comes from Mexico or from any of the other Latin Hispanic countries, whether it's Spain or Cuba or Puerto Rico or Guatemala or Venezuela or other Ecuador, any of those like Latin American, Central America, the islands, any of those, but someone who lives and grows up in America, as America being its main culture, being tied together with us paying tribute to our Hispanic Mexican culture. You'll see my points throughout the book as I hop in. If you see my regular vlog, I just finished one of the craft books that I've been reading for like forever. And I've not gotten good at getting back into hand art reading quickly, with work and stuff. So I'm gonna make this book a priority. And read it over anything else that I have pending, except for my audiobooks, because I read audiobooks while I'm driving. If I like doing this, I have an audiobook that I actually found at a local discount bookstore, but I couldn't buy it at the time, and I found it on the on Audible, and I might do a review on that book as well, because it's a very similar aspect of and when I read the description, I connected instantly to it about the American, Hispanic, American, Mexican experience. And that was the first time I'd ever seen something like that. So if I like doing this with my dealers book, I might do it with that and it would take searching, but I might start doing books reviews based off of Mexican American life, if there is any. If I do that, it won't be till next month anyways, because I already used my Audible credit for a different book. So we shall see. So that's the end of this clip for this. I will be doing little clips, as I said, reading along, and there are, as I'm like flipping through this, they are correct, and there are pictures. Some pictures I recognize, and some I don't. Of family. Some pictures are of old family that I don't remember. But there's definitely pictures in here. So as I come across a picture, I will show you guys, like, through the phone, some of these pictures. Again, this is about my great uncle, so there probably won't be any. But if there's any pictures where I show up, unless you recognize me, I'm not going to point myself out. If, I guess this will be my out. Dolores Miguel is a pen name. I don't have this last name of Santa Cruz. So, maybe I'll do a video on me being a pen name, because I'm outing myself now. But, I won't be, if something shows who my real name, I will definitely blur that out or blackbar it or something if it's in a picture that I'm showing it to you, because due to, as I've said, I work at a hospital, due to the fact that I work in a very professional setting, I don't want to have my personal name out there, because I don't want it to conflict with my work and how I interact with patients and stuff like that. So, just for your guys' reference. But that's all for now on this. I will update you guys as I start reading the story and how my field decided to make this book and how it represents. All right. Bye. So I wanted to do a little update for my reading vlog of my Theo's book. Again, I'm reading it. It's backwards because I'm facing forward. But for my Theo's book, and it's Tuesday, so it's my Saturday, my first day off, and I've only read. Let's see. So the book is. Ooh, how do booktubers do this? Like with one hand? I don't know. I'm struggling. Let's see. It's only 171 pages, and I am at. I literally just started it at 16 because I'm doing laundry and I got interrupted and whatever. But I felt like I wanted to do an update because my husband went to go grab laundry. So I read the forward, My Hero, and their reflections, all from family members that I know. Ooh, my hair is crazy. Ignore that. Puffy hair, curly hair. In the front, though, like the first couple of pages, are little quotes from like pretty high up people in the town, or used to be in the town. And it just surprised me because, I mean, if you read the first parts, you find out real quick, and I didn't know this, but my great uncle was hold on, my husband's coming back. Okay, so I didn't know that my Theo was a city councilman for Tucson. So that was a surprise to me because, like, my Theo Ray, who wrote this book, I do know him, but like, my family is so huge that it's literally impossible to like know and talk to everyone at this point in like my generation at this time. Like, my dad recognizes, knows everybody, like can bring up and talk and have a conversation where I'm like, oh yeah, I vaguely recognize your face, and I'm lucky if I remember names. Because at this point, some of the family has been spread out. Not everybody lives in Tucson, and I have family that lives in California, family that go back and forth between living here, or I don't live in Tucson, but here in Arizona, and then living in California, back and forth. And then some of my dad's generation has spread out across other parts of the country. So it's hard for me to know everyone. So knowing that through this book, I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that we had like a politician in the family. So that was nice. And the person who did the forward, who's Dr. Richard Santiano, he didn't know my great uncle who the book is about. He knew my great uncle, my Theo Ray, or knows, excuse me. And I guess he does other work on Mexican American history, and things like that. So he might be someone good to look into. I'm gonna see. But so far, I like the book. I mean, I'm barely starting. But it kind of reads like a biography so far. But I know that it's supposed to be fictionalized. So we'll see so far. But yeah, I just felt like I needed to check in on like the reading vlog that I'm doing. Okay. All right. Bye. Okay. So I just want to put an update for the reading vlog. Reference. I haven't written anything since yesterday. Me and my husband decided to clean. I'll do another update for the writing vlog about that. But I'm reading. I've only gotten into. I wrote the prologue. I read the prologue, and now. I'm on page 25. But I don't know if it's just nostalgic, but I'm just like, I'm so excited, and I feel like I'm reading the story in my uncle's voice. Like, he's telling me the story, like we were sitting at the table at a family party where I've heard so many stories of my family. So I'm super excited. It sounds like like I'm just reading the story, and the voice in my head ain't mine. It's my Dios. Like, my Tio Ray is telling me this story, and I don't know if that sounds silly, but I really like it. It's cute. Okay, back. So I had to put this in. It's so freaking funny. So at this point, my great uncle is getting ready to go overseas. So the army gave everyone a pamphlet to help them learn about Britain history. That says right here on the culture and the slang, and it besides like encouraging them to get along, it talks about the British don't know how to make a good cup of coffee. You don't know how to make a good cup of tea. It's an even swap. And I thought that was so freaking hilarious, because it's just like, okay, guys, play nice. You both can't do something. And I just thought it was funny when I read it, and I had to record this best quote ever. Okay. Hey everyone. So, this is the end of the vlog, as you can tell. And I'm doing a sit down so that we can talk about my book and some other stuff. So, I finished the book. The bookmarks at the beginning now. Finished the book. It was good. I enjoyed it, and I might be a little biased because it's family. I definitely enjoyed the parts where he was telling his father, my great uncle's life story. I really enjoyed that because I felt and I could feel the feeling of like being at a family party or function where I'm sitting down at the table listening to everybody talk about the past and tell me stories about people, and oh, can you imagine this and that, and because it's a lot of family parties are just like that. I'm gonna be drinking while we talk. A lot of my family functions are like that. I don't know if everybody's is, but that's how mine are. I did enjoy the story about the game. It was a unique perspective break in between, because we are going from his childhood, which means we're talking about my no wait, I have to think about this now. Let's see. So my great grandfather, I think so. I think. If I'm wrong, I'll put a little pop-up comment thingy. About him, because of course you begin from your parents, and then his childhood, which is detailed and slightly briefed, and it's more about the family than just him. And then as he gets older, it talks more about him and his life. There definitely is like a little bit of a time jump, as when you're researching about details about younger siblings, not siblings, younger person's life in the past, it can be difficult to find information. And then if you have first person stories from like your father or something, they don't remember things all the time. So that was interesting. And then you switch in between. So it's a chapter of, it starts, let's see, I can't honestly 100% remember. Okay, so it starts off with the first chapter is the beginning of the game. So you start off with him being older, getting ready for the game, and then the second chapter is that beginning life story. And you keep taking turns. So you have a chapter about the game, and then a chapter about history, and then a chapter of game and history, and so on and so forth until the end. And it's an interesting perspective of back and forth, where it's like you have this huge chunk of like life and story and almost like a biography memoir, I want to say, kind of feel to it. I have not read that many biographies and memoirs, especially after leaving school, so I don't have a solid point of view on that. And then you flip to the game, which feels like a contemporary, like, because it's still, the story itself is slightly innocent, because it's just literally about one game. It almost has like a slight feeling of like it could be in like a YA kind of contemporary book, where you could take this idea of this game and then like spread it out. So you have pages that are like memoirs, and then you have pages of this like contemporary YA story about this boy and this game that's life changing. Or he feels like it's life changing because you're going through it while the game is going on, and the chapters are labeled as innings. So if you don't know much about baseball, I would recommend looking up something about basics, like how are they broken up, and maybe like you might, while you're reading, you might need to look up some baseball lingo, because it's not just reserved for those chapters about the game. The baseball theme is definitely carried on into the history parts, because baseball was in real life a big part of his life and his story and his children's story. So they talk about baseball a lot. So there's a lot of references, and if you don't know even like a basic, not a really basic, where you're like you can watch as a casual watcher, like a little bit more, you might get a little lost, or like have to like Google, stop, put the book down, and like Google, what does this mean, just so that you have a reference point. Which is, I mean, that's fine. Lots of books do that when they talk about things like that. I may be a millennial, but there are plenty of things that I don't know anything about. I don't have any references to, and I constantly have to be like, okay, Google, what does this slang word mean? Because I have no idea. So if you don't know much about baseball, that might be you, just so that you know reference. But it was nice. It ended, I mean, it ended obviously with him passing, because it's a story of his life. But it was nice. It was a sweet conclusion to the end. And then there's two like ending chapters. So there is a chapter called an epilogue, and then a postscript chapter. The epilogue is more of like a catch up with his siblings and his children, and the postscript kind of goes along the same ways, and then the postscript also tells the journey of the like mini journey of like how he got this. My actual great uncle got this idea for this book, and kind of a little bit of the trial and error of how he got to the point of writing the book, and then an update on his life as well. So I'm trying to get my uncle to post his book on Goodreads, because it's not there. Because I mean, he was sorry. More okay. This is his first introduction to like book world publishing that I'm aware of. And if you're on YouTube, and if you have a true love for books, you know that Book Hub is Goodreads. And I don't think he realized that, because as of filming this and of it being published, it wasn't on Goodreads, because I went to go put it on my Goodreads as like, oh, I'm reading this book, so that I could give a review and I could give it ratings and hopefully try to bring the book to more people. It wasn't there. So I was like, maybe I should tell him to put it on there and it will get more traction. Because you know how people put it on shelves and tag it and things like that. I do think that this is a good representation of Mexican American life, because even though my great uncle was Spanish speaking, because my great grandfather was Mexican, he became an American because he was living on soil that America bought within the Treaty of Wellington. So he became an American that way because he didn't go back. He stayed here. He had a home here in southern Arizona before it was southern Arizona. And my great uncle had that similar experience in the sense of he was born an American because this was part of America then, but the world and the life was still very Mexican with American people living here because it was still very fresh, very new. This concept of, oh, we are American. It wasn't until they got much older where where you were proud that you were American, that it was normal and natural and was like, yes, this is what we were. And they don't really, he doesn't really talk about that very much, but I can read between the lines and understand that that's kind of where that idea, that concept came from. And they're also honest on like how hard life was and the kind of jobs he had to get and he did, and juggling that with school and life and things. And I think it's a very good representation of early Mexican American life, reflecting on us, reflecting on like my dad's generation, where my dad still remembers picking. And again, actually, I don't even know if I mentioned this. I've done a couple videos ranting about things and only published like one, I think. But if you don't know what a picker is, which is still a thing, picker or picking is a person going out to the fields to pick your fruits and vegetables, or in these days, cotton, things like that. So that it's done because we don't have machines to do everything. There are some fruits and vegetables that are too sensitive to be picked by machines. It would ruin them. So humans still have to go and pick off of every plant. My dad still has very fresh memories of going to visit family in California, or living with his grandparents. And during the season, they would go to California to pick for money. That was like seasonal jobs kind of thing. So my sister, my brothers, we never had that experience. My parents, when getting older, had good jobs, had like normal American kind of style jobs. You know, my parents are both educators. Before that, my mother was a receptionist secretary within the school system. And they had a range of like educational-esque, office-esque kind of jobs. So we never lived that kind of life, but we had influence. We grew up on a ranch where I remember feeding animals and dealing with animal care, versus, you know, having to go seasonally and going to pick and things like that. But that's part of a lot of life here. And then you also have life, Mexican American life that lives in cities. My mother lived that life. She did not live out in the country as my father did. She lived in the city of Tucson. And my grandmother from her side worked as a housekeeper and things like that, where that was where you could get a job, especially because if you didn't speak a lot of English, and it was really difficult. But my mother spoke English, and from there she was able to be a secretary. She has a degree as a bilingual secretary. That was her first one. She has other degrees now, but that was her first degree. So that building up from each generation builds into the American society, because we are farther removed from Mexico. We are not Mexicans. We do not live in Mexico. We live in America, and it's that building of that next generation becoming further and further apart from that. I've said multiple times, I work in the hospital. I have a higher end job, or not higher end job. I have a more stable American job. My sister is a mechanic, or she has a degree as a mechanic. Right now, because of pandemic and COVID and all this stuff, she's working in a hospital as a receptionist, but she's trying to get like an office job in a auto facility. So that's, again, that higher building up rank of the world. My brother is a chef. My other brother is working on trying to get a landscaping business. So there's these steps of like being higher into the American world, the American dream, which is much different than coming over as an immigrant, and that immigrant story of like you starting from the scratch and building up. We don't have to do that. We had past generations do that for us, and we are building from that point that they stopped at, and then we build up for that next point, which is very much like America dream. Like, you can have a white American person who maybe didn't have a good life, but then worked their way hard, and now they run a business, so they have, or they worked in business, or a lawyer or doctor or whatever, store shop owner, entrepreneur. They had a good business, good job, they save money, they build that for their children, and then their children springboard off of that and continue up. And that's very much how the American world family system runs. And as a farther removed now, next to the American generation, that's how we work. If and when I have children, or any of my siblings have children, where we are is that next springboard for our children to step up and continue on to doing even better or greater or even same level things as us. And that's that beauty of like, because we're not from an immigrant family, we're not starting at that bottom or very beginning. We've been here for a while. We've had that establishment. And that's what I think I was kind of saying at like the beginning, where I was like, there isn't a lot of books on life here afterwards at multiple generations, where it's like, you are an American. People don't necessarily see you that way, but you are, and how you establish that life here. And this was a really good job of that, especially towards the end, where they started talking about my great uncle's life, and then they touch a little bit about his children and where they are now, sort of. It's, that's not the focus of the book. The focus is on my great great uncle, but they talk about that because it still influences his life. So I think this was a very good, soft intro into Mexican American lifestyle, life, and views. Again, I recommend my uncle's book. It was good. It's like a memoir, biography, fictional story about my great great uncle, Pulido Del Libro, The Life of Ronaldo Santa Cruz, by his son, Ronaldo J. Santa Cruz Jr. So I recommend my uncle's book. I need to pick a side. It's on Amazon. All the proceeds are going to local charities, and I was going to read to you guys what the charities were. I'm also going to put them in the place down in the comments. So the proceeds are going to the Pueblo High School Athletic Fund. That's a local school in Tucson. The CSUDH Pro Baseball and the Golden West chapter of the ALS Association. I'm going to, if I can, find these, and if there's links to them, link them in the video down below. If you want to add a donation to any of these places, feel free. There is a personal reason why the ALS Foundation is getting also a donation, and if you read the book, you'll find out. Even it's just right there in that entrance where it talks about why he's donating it to them. You'll see it there. So if the book, if you're interested in that, add it on Goodreads. Write a review. It's nice, and I think it's a good partial representation. Check out the links to my uncle's book. If I can link the associations he's going to do. Okay, bye.